procedure. Each time that an accident happened among our aircraft, the standing operating procedure is to ground the fleet of that aircraft until the investigation that has been conducted were concluded, and we are able to determine, as I said earlier, what needed to be done if that wasn't done yet, or what are the modifications that needed to be conducted, if only to ensure that this incident will not happen again. So in this particular case, we have one other C-130 that is flying that will be grounded. But all in all, we are to have 5 C-130 aircraft. One that met this accident, that is with tail number 5125. Then the other aircraft, I will just mention the tail number. The other aircraft will be grounded. There are two more in its ongoing maintenance in Portugal. One of these two will be arriving back in the Philippines by this month, and one other part of the foreign military support to the AFP will be delivered to the Philippines. So all in all, including that, if we're not going to include the one that will be delivered yet, there are 4 aircraft. One was involved in this crash, so the other 3, one will be grounded. It cannot fly for the time being, and the other 2 are being repaired in Portugal. One of these 2 will be arriving this month to join the fleet of our hard-working aircraft that is the workhorse of our armed forces and our government. I hope I was able to answer your questions.
Sir, yun po sa Japan-Philippines bilateral training, the air-to-air exercises that starts today, hindi ko ba kailanganin yung C-130? That's okay, wala pong impact nun?
I am not privy yet as to the composition of the participants in the training, but if it is one of them, then definitely it will not be included anymore. After all, well, as I said, I'm not privy yet as to the composition, but we still have other aircraft that are available that may participate in this training.
Salamat, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, sir. And Mr. George Carino is recognized.
Good morning.
After K. George, I'm not seeing any hands raised on the Zoom conference, sir. So, Mr. George Carino, your question and follow-up, please.
Thank you, Captain Sata. General, good morning.
Morning, George.
You mentioned 96 sa manifest, just to set the record straight and help avoid the speculation. Can you describe us the chronology of the event? Flying out of Manila, saan po ito dumaan bago pumunta sa Sulu at ito pa yung primary mission yung pagpunta sa Sulu?
Okay. The information that are available to me was that it took off from Villamor Air Base in Pasay City. It first landed in Cagayan de Oro, particularly in Lumbia Airport, to bring the party and other personnel who are part of that trip, particularly Major General Romeo Browner and his family. After that mission to Lumbia, its next mission is to bring troops to 11 Infantry Division in Sulu. And when the aircraft landed in Sulu at around 11:45, this unfortunate incident happened. The manifest contains 96 names. 49 of them have all been rescued. 32 are being treated in military hospitals. 17 are in various other hospitals in Zamboanga City. 47 perished in this tragic incident. Their remains have already been recovered. The process of identifying them are in place and it's moving, and we hope to notify all members or the next of kin of those who perished in this incident before we release even the names of those who survived. George.
Follow-up, George?
Yes. Another question, please, Judge. Your Indulgence,
Okay. Before you continue, George, I'd just like to answer the particular questions on the training with Japan. It's only classroom instruction and lectures. It does not involve kinetic or actual exercise or training with aircraft. George, sorry, please continue with your next question.
the AFP's hand is busy with this investigation and treating management of the dead and treating the injured. Sana po ang, as we speak, nasan po ang focus ngayon at ano po ang plano dun sa pag-uwi dun sa mga kawal natin na
Okay. The first thing that we're doing is to ensure that those who have been wounded and injured are being treated and their medical requirements are all properly attended, including transporting them to Manila or where else where a higher level of treatment or facility will be necessary. Now, of course, the necessary support, the needed support for all of them will all be made available by the Armed Forces of the Philippines. With regard to those who perished in this incident, as I said, identification of the remains are now ongoing. For those who have been identified, they will be delivered or brought home to the respective families. But meantime, since we already know how many were on board, how many, and the names of those who survived, so we already have the names and list of all those who perished. But the challenge now is on identifying who is this person as among the remains. But the act of notifying is already in process. Honors will be accorded to them, befitting a hero who died in line of duty. This includes vigil, ceremonies in laying them in their final resting place. Respective units of the armed forces where these soldiers reside or their families reside will be the one to be overall in charge of all this, informing the next of kin, the burial requirements, and the ceremonies that are needed to be given to them will be taken care of by them. Bases and military camps who have in their AOR the residences of these fallen soldiers the flags will be raised on half-mast. And again, all the benefits will be given to them. That's why the critical thing now for those who perished is the identification, not only of those who perished, but also those of their next of kin, so that we would know to whom we're supposed to deliver or provide the benefits and give the assistance that are necessary. Much as the remains are charred, we have means on how to identify them. They all have dental records for us to compare them with the remains. But in instances where there might be some changes and some dental records were not updated, we have forensic experts in the armed forces and in other agencies of government who are going to work together in order to ensure that proper identities will be known, and again, they will be brought home and be given the decent burial that they deserve as heroes of our country.
General, binigit lang po kahapon na mayroong unaccounted. Tama po ba? O bago na yung information?
Sa ngayon, bago na yung information natin. Initially, 42 yung na-retrieve natin na remains. 5 were unaccounted or missing. Let's use the word missing. 5 were missing, but all of those 5 have already been accounted for. That raised the number to 47.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, George. Sir, wala na pong tumataas ng kamay, but may follow-up question po si Raul Dancel from the State Times. And his question goes, how will the grounding of the C-130 fleet affect the AFP's humanitarian mission and operations against the Abu Sayyaf, NPA, and other enemies of the state? How long can the AFP afford to keep these aircraft on the ground? Again, the question, sir, comes from Raul Dancel of the State Times.
Thank you for your question, Raul. Definitely, this will have an impact in our ongoing operations. But the military, as an organization, as an institution, have already put up in place contingency measures so that in incidents like this, much as we may be hampered, it should not be felt. It should be temporary, and mitigation measures are always available and already there to be implemented. Our commanders on the ground, in the air, and at sea are all on board. We know the necessary adjustments and modifications that we needed to make. We would like to warn the enemies of the state that this might have affected, but this will never impact on our desire to eliminate the enemies of the state and to bring back peace and development to our country that has long been deserved by our kababayans. Make no mistake, your armed forces is very much on its toes. We will not put our guards down. We will continue our pursuit, and we will not stop unless we are able to neutralize the enemies of the state and for our people to get the progress and the peace that they so deserve.
Okay. Sir, thank you very much. May additional questions pa po. We will recognize muna si Ann Sobirana. After Ann, may pahabol pong question si Michael Flores from AFP. So stand by, Mr. Flores. Ann, you have the floor.
And sorry, before you ask that, I think one part of the question is about humanitarian operations. Again, it may be able to affect us, but again, contingency measures are there. We have Navy ships, we have Navy aircraft to help and assist in the delivery of these basic goods and services. So our people should not worry that their needs, especially at this time, that we are very much in dire need for the rollout of our vaccines. We are going to institute measures. Just like as I mentioned, we have reservists and auxiliary training units affiliated with us that could help us. Again, as a nation, we will be able to hurdle all these challenges. And if we are one with each other and with one another, I'm sure any challenge like this, we will be able to surmount. Thank you. Ann, please.
Sir, nabanggit mo kanina na medyo hirap po tayo sa pag-identify noong mga na-recover nating cadavers at may mga forensic experts naman ang armed forces officers.
Tama po.
Madami ba sir, kaya ba ng mga forensic experts natin to identify this or kailangan pa natin humingi ng tulong sa ibang mga agencies like ang PNP and the NBI para tumulong po sa pag-identify nitong mga cadavers?
Okay. I may have to answer that in English and in Filipino since your platform is Filipino. Sa ngayon, meron tayong mga dental records. Lahat ng sundalo may dental records. So kasama yan sa pinakauna nating gagamitin sa pagtulong upang makilala itong ating mga kasamahan na nasawi sa insidente nito. Doon lamang sa mga sitwasyon kung saan yung kanilang mga dental records ay maaaring hindi updated, then that's the only time na mangangailangan tayo ng tulong ng mga forensics expert na meron tayo sa AFP. At kung mangangailangan pa tayo ng additional, marami tayong mga reservists na bahagi ng ating tinatawag na force multiplier sa armed forces na makatutulong sa atin upang sa ganun ay ma-augment kung kakailanganin pa. But so far, masasabi natin na sapat pa ang bilang sapat pa yung proseso na meron tayo at ang bilang ng forensic experts kung ito man ay kakailanganin. So what we're saying is we have sufficient means to identify these remains. We have dental records to use. These are regularly updated. We will know that this is not updated because it has a date of update that we could refer to. In which case, if it's outdated, then that's the only time that we resort to forensics expert. And even if we have to do that, we have sufficient number in the armed forces to do that. And if at all we need augmentation, we have reservists in the armed forces, part of our force multiplier, whether in all fields, even engineering, science, and in this case forensic medicine, that could help us in identifying the remains of our fallen soldiers. Sa ngayon, narinig ko na nagpahayag ang ating magiting na hepe ng pambansang pulisya na mag-extend ng tulong sa atin sa Armed Forces. Nagpapasalamat po ang Sandatang Lakas ng Pilipinas sa ngalan ni General Cirilito Subihana, ang ating AFP Chief of Staff. Coordinations are in place, no, para hindi na tayo makikipag-coordinate kung kailangan natin. So the coordinations are already in place. But if there's a need, then execution na lang ng coordination ang ating gagawin. So we already have made appropriate coordinations with other agencies of government like the Philippine National Police, whom the Chief Director Eliasar, Director General Eliasar have already mentioned his desire and his order for his members of the PNP to help the AFP in the process. So we're very thankful in behalf of the AFP General Cirilito Subihana, our AFP Chief of Staff. We would like to express our gratitude for that offer. Coordinations are in place. Should there be a need to actually engage them or for them to send, then it will already be quickly executed because the coordination part have already been completed. And we thank our counterparts, not only in the PNP but in other agencies of government like the NBI, who are there to help us in this particular effort.
Thank you very much, Anne. And for the final two questions, coming from Michael Flores. And siguro sir, standby po natin si Robina Acido that will ask after Michael Flores has asked his question.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Captain John. General Randall, good morning. Sir, what was the weather like yesterday when the plane was landing? And can you describe for us the area where the plane crashed? Is it a plantation, coconut field?
What was the first part of your question again?
Sir, what was the
Weather.
Yes.
Okay. From available records, the weather is good. The area where it overshot the runway is already a village, according to the information that I gathered, and there are already settlements in the area, which probably could be the reason why there were civilians who were hurt and who perished in this incident as well.
Sir, at the moment, who is currently conducting the search and is the area controlled by the military? And are there any indications that the militants could interfere with the search?
Since day one, when this incident happened, immediately, and part of the search, rescue, and retrieval operations is the security operation in the area. We have to cordon the area where the search, rescue, and retrieval operations are ongoing to make sure that there will be no disruption from any quarter with regard to this particular very critical and important actions during the golden hour. Likewise, we also made appropriate coordinations with other agencies of government with regard to as I said, the transport of all our those who were injured in this particular incident. The military is on top of the search, rescue operations. Those have already been terminated, and now we are on the retrieval operations part. The experts from the Philippine Air Force, the investigating team, I surmise might be already conducting the investigation as we speak, because as early as the break of dawn this morning, they are already in Sulu, and I have spoken to the head of the team that went there, the commander of the Air Mobility Command.
Sir, what do we know about the pilots? Are they part of those who died, or were they able to survive the crash yesterday?
Hindi ko muna mabanggit yung, I cannot name the survivors and the injured yet, as I already mentioned, because of the requirement or the protocol that we have to inform the next of kin yet. So I'm sorry if I'm not be able to answer that question as at the moment. I hope you understand.
Yeah, I completely understand. Sir, just to clarify, there are no indications, and as you mentioned, the military is in control. There are no indications that militant groups or terror groups operating within the area could compromise the search and retrieval of the collective order.
They cannot, and we will not allow that. The Armed Forces of the Philippines is in control. We are on top of the situation. We will ensure that there will be no disruption, especially that we are on the part of the retrieval, especially so that we need to get all those parts of the aircraft or any other material that may be essential to the investigation that we're conducting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, General.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, sir. And for the final questions, will be coming from Ms. Robina Asido. Ms. Robina, go ahead, please.
Good morning, General.
Good morning, Rubina.
Hey, sir. Sir, for the record po, can you tell us the maximum capacity of RC-120 aircraft? And then, second question, since we're still in pandemic, tingin niyo po, nasunod kaya yung social distancing sa loob po ng aircraft? Kaya parang kung tama lang ba yung number based to sa AFP ng mga protocols? And then, last na po siguro, is there a plan to deploy new sets of troops sa Sulu? Since ito po mga dapat na soldiers natin ay i-deploy na sugatan at iwan po ay maraming salamat, sir.
Okay, thank you, Rubina. Your first question was on the capacity. I'm sorry, but I'm not privy as to that specific detail or nomenclature of the aircraft. Second, social distancing and protocol requirements, biosafety protocol. We are strictly observing that. As a matter of fact, no one is allowed to board the aircraft unless they have passed all the necessary requirements pertinent to biosafety protocol. With regard to the number of troops that is supposed to have been an augmentation, they are filled up of personnel in addition, but it doesn't mean that since they were not able to join their future units, it will hamper already our operations. As I said, it may have some impact in our conduct of combat humanitarian operations, but we have contingency measures in place. Our commanders are trained to plan for all contingencies that may happen during the conduct of operations. So we are warning the enemies of the state for them not to be complacent that even if this setback happened to us, we are going to pursue and continue our relentless operations to finish the threat of the Abu Sayyaf group in that particular side of our country. Rubina.
Thank you, sir.
No more question, Robina? Okay, so sir, there are questions dito sa chat na was already answered, but we will just provide them with direct answers also because nasagot niyo na rin po ito.
Okay.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, Major General Revalo, sir, any statements as we conclude this today's press briefing?
Okay. Again, we would like to express our gratitude and appreciation to many people who have expressed their desire to help, their prayers, their condolences, and their gracious offer of assistance in this time of a tragic incident in the armed forces of the Philippines. We seek for your prayers. We seek for the prayers of our countrymen, for our wounded soldiers, and for the eternal rest and repose of the souls of those who suffered in this tragedy. Let us pray specifically for the members of their family and next of kin. We know how difficult this is, especially at this time of the pandemic. Incidents like this happen. The Armed Forces of the Philippines, under the leadership of General Cirilito Subihana, our AFP Chief of Staff, the Philippine Air Force, under Lieutenant General Allen Paredes, is on top of the situation. We are aware about this great loss, but as we said, within what is humanly possible, we are looking into this incident to make sure that this will not happen again. We would like to assure our people about the airworthiness or even seaworthiness of all our assets in the armed forces. We are not going to compromise not only these critical assets of armed forces, but more importantly, the life and limbs of our people. They are our most valuable assets, so much so that we mourn so much this incident, and we commit to give the assistance, not only the honors, but the assistance and benefits that are due them, being soldiers who died in the line of duty. We assure our people that in every instance that we need to operate our vessels, our vehicles, we are doing check before it leaves and checks after it has performed our mission. But again, all the due diligence considered, all the efforts that have been exerted towards safety, still this incident happened. So we are after the investigation so that we know what actions yet are needed to be done. We solicit the understanding of our kababayan and of course, especially those people who have the habit of distributing information that are unverified. Please cease from doing it because it does not help at all. It even complicates the situation. Again, on behalf of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, we thank you for all your prayers and support. Your armed forces will continue to perform its mission. We will pursue our peace and development efforts even if we are facing challenges like this. Magandang umaga po. Good morning.
Magandang umaga po, Major General Revalo at sa ating mga kasama. Everyone, thank you very much for joining us in this morning's presser. That concludes our activity this morning at mag-ingat po tayong lahat. Magandang umaga po sa ating mga. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sandali bago niyo kuhanin.
Kaya na talaga nag-isip. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, hindi na off the record. Ayan na po, hindi na tika-tika na lang. Parang pathway. Sir, sa 47, lahat ba charge? Okay na ba, sir?
Okay. Nagpalit ako ng uniform. Alas 5:30 pa lang. Ini-interview na ako.
Lahat kayo ng 47 ba, sir? Charge beyond recognition.
Yung level of detail hindi ko na yon, hindi ko siya nakuha, but varying, it's safe to say that it's in varying degree of burn, kahit yung mga wound nila sa
So ano doon? Or meron ba siyang bago? Dahil yung mga binanggit ko, iniimbestigahan na po namin yun. So para ron sa kaso niya, siya dapat ang magpaliwanag doon at mag-prove